each bringing with them sound understanding in the respective field of expertise. To enrich us with their ideas, I will call upon Mr. Bhalchandra Joshi from Reliance Nippon Asset Management Company. Mr. Joshi is the Chief of Service Delivery and Excellence and is responsible for end-to-end management of transactions initiated across mediums, payout processing, fund accounting, custodial services, investor distribution, experience management, pan-India. I would also call upon Ms. Kirti Gupta from Aditya Birla Sun Life Asset Management. Kirti is the COO there. She has over 20 years of experience in the areas of risk, compliance, investments, and sales. Next to her is Mr. Sandeep Batra. Mr. Sandeep Batra is the Executive Director, ICICI Prudential Life Insurance Company. Mr. Batra has been working with ICICI Group for the last 17 years. He's been a founding member of the team, and recently he led the team which completed India's first insurance IPO. Joining him is Mr. Anand Natarajan, the Head of Strategy and Business Execution for Fullerton India. In his role, he is responsible for overall corporate strategy of the company and its subsidiaries, covering risk, operations, technology, analytics, and digital initiatives. May I also mention that Anand has held various leadership positions in his 23 years with Standard Chartered Bank. Moderating this panel, I would call upon Mr. Sanjay Gurjar, who leads transaction banking for India and Nepal for Standard Chartered Bank. His responsibilities span across trade finance, cash management, and securities services for these regions. Sanjay has been with Standard Chartered Bank for 21 years, and he is an MBA from IIM Ahmedabad. Please, Sanjay. I would like to encourage the audience to use the pigeonhole technology to raise questions or points to the speakers, which we will try our best to cover as many as possible in this discussion. Without further ado, I would like to hand over the proceedings to Sanjay to start this discussion. Over to you, Sanjay.
Can everyone hear me? Yeah? Okay. So our session, of course, is on business-led digital strategies. It is a session, as you would have realized. It's the panel. We have a very distinguished panel to talk about this, and it is a completely FI panel, a financial institutions panel. There's a reason why we did that. If you look at digitization, and you would have heard about this since the afternoon, and we've been talking about the entire digitization journey and various facets of it. One of the sectors and industries that we as bankers have seen to be most receptive and most also putting a lot of pressure on us bankers in terms of getting things going, the digitization route, following in the footsteps of what the government has planned to do, using all the things and tools that we have, it's the FI sector. And which is why we thought a good mix of FI clients here across NBFCs, mutual funds, and insurance companies would be a great way to delve into what goes behind a digital strategy of any company in India in this time and age. So let me dive in straight. Maybe what we can do is start with the first question, which I'll just request all my panelists to spend a couple of minutes talking about, from their organization's perspective, the digital journey. What are the drivers that took them down this journey, and what all does it encompass? So maybe if I can start with ladies first. Kirti.
Thank you. So the way we look in today's scenario, you cannot treat digital as a separate. It's part and parcel of your overall business strategy. And that's the kind of an approach at Aditya Birla Mutual Fund which we have taken out there. We just believe in today's scenario, digital needs to be part of each and every kind of a setup, vertical, your business strategy, your people strategy, your distribution strategy. It needs to be a part of this particular piece. And that's the way we have tried. We've used digital strategy in a great way to do expansion of a business, finding out new avenues of penetration, and expanding the overall current base. So if you know that in case of a mutual funds, of the overall GDP, we are somewhere around 3% into mutual. When I compare this with the global scenario, in India, the fixed deposit base is much higher than a mutual fund investments. But when I look at the reverse, in case of a global and mature market, the mutual fund investments is far, far higher. They are multiples of the fixed deposit base. So that's what we are talking, that today we have an opportunity to expand this particular market. Further happens is you can do a good amount of financial inclusions, a very seamless, collaborative, and an intuitive experience to the customer would help us including the financial inclusion, which is a kind of a big theme out there. The whole mutual fund industry have seen is that we are getting more business now from smaller towns. Earlier, the whole focus used to be in large metros and maybe the next level of 4 or 5 cities out there. Now the tables are literally taking a turn. We are getting more business from a smaller town. We are getting more business from an expanded, a person who used to save, who earns a lakh of a rupee wants to make an investment of 500 into a mutual fund, which never used to happen earlier. So we are using digital to expand our market width, penetrate it much deeper, and making it an inclusive strategy rather than saying is I would have a separate digital vertical which will drive my digital business. I think that's not how it would sustain out there.
Yeah, thanks, Kirti. Sandeep?
Yeah, thanks. I'll just build on what Kirti just mentioned. I'm coming from a life insurance industry, and our digital journey started about somewhere in 2012, primarily driven by the regulator when he put some caps around what we can spend in terms of and what the customer proposition should be. The choice was essentially try to move away from customer-centric products or make ourselves as efficient so that we can still manufacture customer-centric products. So if I wind back to 2012, I mean, it used to take us about 2 weeks to issue a policy. It was all paper, it was essentially paper-based. And in insurance industry, if you see the cost structure, 80% is sales related, and it's only 20% which is essentially at the back end. So these were the two paradigms. So what we started looking at was using tablets as the first this thing as part of the sales initiative. Digitization in our case doesn't mean going online. I mean, the cost is essentially around. So we did one thing in terms of got the tablet integrated with our central underwriting system. We integrated with Aadhaar. I mean, that is way back in 2013. I mean, Aadhaar we are talking about right now. And integrated with ICICI Bank. So if you have either of the two, we were in a position to get the KYC details at a source. The system allowed, while you're talking to the customer, to fill the rest of the form, check if there is a medical need or not. In case there's a medical need, fix up a doctor's appointment. And the policy could then be issued over a period of time in just a matter of hours versus what used to take almost 2 weeks. So there has been a significant change which has happened. The risk profile has significantly improved because all the issues around frauds of the KYC not being available at source has sort of been addressed. The payment comes immediately. The underwriting goes to the rules engine. And I think the biggest beneficiary essentially has not been the bigger towns, it's been the smaller towns. Because the policy used to go the application used to go from a smaller town to a hub location, and then there used to be some checking over there, and people used to come back, oops, this is not right. Some back and forth used to happen. So it's been a great journey, I mean, as far as we are concerned, and the biggest thing is the number of, the turnaround times. I can see even in a place like Bombay, we have, over the last 5-6 years, we would have reduced the branches by half, and the sales have actually doubled. So if I'm just putting these numbers in context.
Thanks, Sandeep. Vivek?
Yeah. First of all, Sanjay, thank you for having me here. Great audience to engage with. For me, digital journey started about 5 years back. But what I vividly remember, Sanjay, is, the presentation Sandeep, our CEO, Sandeep Sikka, our CEO, made to the board, and we co-created a vision as to how this business needs to look like, what is the future that we want to invest in. And let me be honest, 5 years back, there were no conferences talking about digitization. We were lonely in that space, and it feels really nice looking back. When we decided our ethos as customer experience, what are we going to do when we are embarking on digital journey? So we focused on customer experience is the goal, and then work backwards on creating simplicity and convenience, which was technology-led. Now, to me, that thought process, that initial design, and we were fortunate to have someone like BCG who have worked in this space extensively to partner with us. So it's not just about creating digital, but 360-degree approach to digital, wherein your entire organization's senior management was aligned on day one, and that helped creating integration at teams level. So digital is not just about marketing or front end, but it's an integrated approach, and those steps, those designs that we created, when I look back, were primarily responsible for the kind of business that we are getting on digital front.
Thanks, Vijay.
Yeah.
Anand, from an NBFC perspective, what's the...
You mentioned, Sanjay, that financial institutions were at the forefront of digitization, and I would put it this way, that I think we were forced to make those changes.
Yeah, that's right, actually.
Right?
Yeah.
Simply because of three large tectonic changes. First is, if you talk about digitization, it's really about how you adapt to customers adopting new technologies to manage their way they manage their business, how they interact with brands, with products, and with even others through social media. And what that did, and what it has done, is it has changed the expectations of the customer. People like us and banks used to make money out of friction in process, and they used to make money out of the information asymmetry that you had. So you created a whole host of frictions around how a product ran, and then you made money out of it. With availability of information, with ease of transactions, those paradigms are changing. Customers are able to understand what you have to offer, measure you against others. They measure us, and not just against other banks. They want to measure us against how Uber provides a solution. And therefore, you are forced to make the changes in the way you operate. That's the first part. The second part is really the entry of fintechs. And when I speak about fintechs, the simple, the nimble people who are disrupting the way you operate. Whether they succeed, whether they gain market share is a different matter. But what they are doing is they're making and demanding innovation. And the expectations are being shaped by that. And the third, of course, is an enabler, which I think is the improvement in the infrastructure, whether it be identity, authentication, payments, the availability of data. That's allowing you to make more changes in the way you operate. So these are the basic principles around what we have done around digitization. And broadly, it's themes around three things. Number one is, how do you make provision of money to customers need-based, seamless, frictionless, and intuitive? Okay. At the end, putting money into people's wallet for lending is a utility. People don't buy loans. They want money for a need. So how do you interpose yourself between the customer desire and how you can provide the money? And that is really the differentiator that we're looking at. Providing solutions that are simple, need-based, intuitive. The second part is around adaptability. You look at fintechs and you look at the platforms that are coming in, you can't build all of them together. So how do you partner intelligently with platform providers? How do you complete the customer experience to platform providers? How do you leverage those capabilities? So you are able to almost outsource innovation to somebody else and white label it. So that's the second part of our theme. The second order benefit around this is really you get data. Increasingly, availability of data, usability of data becomes a self-fulfilling ability to underwrite, provide service. So partnering with people. And finally, as costs contract, as margins contract, as competition increases, how do you reduce the cost of delivery? How are you able to hyperscale what you deliver? So how do you convert from a clunky 3-year personal loan to a 30-day loan without enduring the cost of underwriting and cost of servicing? So that's the third part of automating and get as much as possible to straight through. So broadly, that's the theme we're adopting.
Thanks. Just a quick reminder to the audience, the pigeonhole thing is on. So please put in your questions. If you have any, please put them into that. It will pop up over here and we'll ask those questions to the panel. Do take that opportunity. Talking about, so we've kind of defined digital strategies from the perspectives of the 4 panelists. So if you have to look a little beyond and look at, one of the aspects that digital has, some of the questions that come up is there a difference in digital strategy? And questions to Sandeep and Kirti. Across demographies, across geographies, is there a segmentation, tier 1 cities, rural, urban, are there divides in the digital strategy simply based on client behavior? Or is that a myth?
No, I'll tell you our story around this. Normally, it's expected that when you launch some of the projects which we really talked about, a city like a Bombay or a Delhi will be the first one to adopt it. When we launched it, there was a fair bit of, it has its, teething troubles. There is hiccup because the whole sales process is changing. But suddenly we realized that it is not the Bombay and Delhi guy, and the person whose life it really made a big difference was somebody in Jaisalmer. Because it was a small hub and who had to, it was just a small outpost which used to send its applications to Jodhpur and then which in turn used to coordinate with Mumbai. So it's a 200 kilometers journey, and by the time an application used to come to Jodhpur and somebody used to check whether right or wrong, it could, and then go back, you had a fairly strong wastage. Yeah. So that boy found that this technology can really change his life and because of technology, it's hitting Mumbai first. And then he gets the results and the policy gets issued to his customers. So suddenly his numbers almost doubled, from a very, very, very small base. So we asked him what is really done, and this is where. And so we got him back to our own, the sales forums that we have, and asked him to present what did he do and how did it change his life. That's when, things really started adopting. So I don't think so this is about rural or urban or a demographic here or not. It's about who is the first adopter about it and whose life it is really changing. If it's going to change my life, I will adopt. Yeah. Let's be, digitization is not an end in itself. It is supposed to achieve either a customer experience or it's supposed to achieve a cost efficiency. We are all, that's the only thing it is supposed to achieve. Yeah. So, our take has always been and once you start doing it, then everybody started adopting it. In Mumbai also, if you can imagine, if a person is coming from Andheri and coming to our own office, and if he has to make 2 trips, his whole day is gone. That's about it. And technology makes a world of difference.
Kirti?
So I think I'll fully agree with what Sandeep is saying is, it really does not matter that which area. A customer will adopt if you're giving him a service which is as per his need. If he is able to fulfill a goal or a need, then he would adopt to this. And I give you kind of a mutual fund industry example. SIP, if you try and look at the whole process is extremely complicated when you do into a physical world. If a customer wants to register a SIP, it was taken that 30 days is the bare minimum kind of a time that I'll need to take. But with the use of digital technologies and the payment gateways, today you can do an immediate, right now, clicking 3 or 4 buttons and do a registration. So when you do it, is there further opportunity for you to reduce it to 1? Then I'll say, yes, there's still an opportunity out there. Are we exploring that or are we moving into that particular direction? So I says, that's what digital. So if you were taking 30 days, today you're taking a few hours, can I do a kind of a seamless integration and say it happens out there? So what is it that we are trying to? It's extremely important in digital world that you become intuitive. It's extremely easy today, kids who understand mobile and says this is the way it expands and this is rather than using a television. Because that's the kind of, and we need to align ourselves to that particular environment. So unless and until you look at the external ecosystem and align to that particular ecosystem, you would always be doing a catch-up kind of a job. And Generally, we always talk about sales, that it helps me in taking the market penetration, but there are various ways in which digital technology, you can make the life of your own employees extremely simple. You can make the life of a distributor very, very simple out there. He does not have to run from pillar to post. He does not have to say, I need to go to 4 different agencies out there and I need to put those kind of a thing. You can provide him extremely simple, seamless experience out there. The another important aspect that digital offers you, your ability at the back end to do a data analysis. So the moment you do that data analysis and prompt him that, look, this is what it is happening, this is what you need to. And if I can fill up an application form, or if I can tell my employee, look, this was a customer who has given you a business out there, but in last 1 month you will not met, but he's doing this. Can you please go back and connect with this particular customer? You can go back and say, look, you are entitled for a holiday, a block leave which is coming out there, but you have not taken it, you have not planned it. Can you give a kind of a notification or support him and says, please look, this is the kind of a thing happening. You can provide a kind of an enabling environment for people to work it out and says, how do I? Today, when it comes to digital, the opportunities are unlimited. You should have the ability to think and deliver it. So we jokingly used to talk, who thought the washing machine would be able to place an order for a detergent? Nobody ever thought, but it's possible today. How do you know today a washing machine would be able to self-correct itself? This was unimaginable, but today this is happening. The washing machines comes with a button and they'll say, okay, this is the kind of a problem, press 1, 2, 3, this problem will get resolved. Nobody ever thought of it. So that's the kind of an opportunity available. We just need to encash that. From a customer's perspective, if we look at only from our own perspective, we would not achieve. But we look at from the other person's perspective or the customer's perspective, his adoption would be definitely very, very high. And the customer can be an internal customer and external customer.
Yeah, but talking of customers, how critical Viva is customer education? Because in the midst of all this, you may be doing whatever you want to do, but ultimately if the customer is not really there, and therefore what is your experience?
Yeah.
On that.
So, Sanjay, while digital is clearly increasing, and if I can say, Sanjay, what has happened over last 5 years journey, now today, 1 out of every 4 transaction, I'm repeating, 1 out of every 4 transactions is happening digital, right? So, basically learning for us is if you keep customer experience at the forefront of what you're doing and then work backwards, this is the kind of response that you get. And when I say convenience and simple solutions, with 1 click you invest, and investing is easy, you're getting in money. But at mutual fund industry, thanks to a team sitting there, we could design a product which became an industry initiative, and thanks to Kirti and other colleagues, now instant redemption is reality. So it's not just about, getting money, but allowing customer to redeem in 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 365 days, 24/7 is something that we have achieved, right? So there is a 360-degree approach. Now what we need to do is take this to investors and make sure that they are aware about what mutual fund can do. And just to convert this discussion into how customers respond when you create convenience. I just want to give some hard facts and numbers. 1 out of 4 we have seen, but liquid fund, which has taken 10 years for us, we have launched that product more than 10 years back. Whatever numbers that we achieved in 10 years, in last 12 months, we achieved 60% of those numbers in last 12 months. So this is what happens when you are effectively able to take your product and convenience to investors. And that's where I guess education plays really, really important role. So for me, the title click and mortar, I think that's the combination, or phygital as a combination, that's going to create a success. And I must appreciate here, Sandeep Sikka, who's my CEO, Bala, who's Birla CEO, industry has come together and created that mutual fund Sahi Hai. is a sort of education wherein on prime time, I had never
That's
seen
an
mutual
incredible
fund.
campaign, actually.
India-Pakistan cricket match, and during the break when rates are highest, mutual fund sahi hai, right? So I'm saying it's a combination of all these factors coming together. Education will play important role, and we are seeing that happening right now.
Sure. Anand, you spoke about analytics from a credit underwriting perspective, and that is most critical for you, and to a certain extent, of course, Sandeep, from an insurance underwriting perspective. But how is that? What is the role of analytics? How much have you used that tool?
Okay.
Where do you see that going?
We are in the retail lending business, so we've always relied on analytics to underwrite a customer. So if you look at a broader range of digitization, when you underwrite a person, you do three things, right? You validate his credentials. You then assess his willingness to pay and his credit discipline. And three is assess the ability to pay. A lot of that used to be quite manual. Triangulate his credentials used to be you do a tele-verification, physical verification, KYC kind of documentation. That has quite dramatically come off. The second part is around how do you underwrite a person. Now, you have a whole range of analytics that works well when there is a reasonable credit traceability of that person. How do you underwrite a person where there is limited credit traceability? And that really has always been, if you talk about the inclusion story, the under-penetrated segment tends to be the person who is new to credit or who has been denied access to credit. And that has always been a tough piece to do because the high judgment and low end analytics. A lot of our work right now has been around addressing that gap. Yeah? And that's around trying to identify what are the reasonable alternate data that you can use that are sensible, financially linked, that allow you, absent good financial record, to assess his or her capability. To give you an example, and we're making some progress out here, is if you get down to, let's say, an FMCG and say, can you provide me with data of their order patterns of the last mile retailer? That's sufficient data for you to say what the throughput of that last mile consumer is. And rather than rely on faulty financial records or bank statements, completely unintrusively, you're not tormenting the retailer for data, you're going to an authenticated source and you're assessing data. So you use third-party data that's authenticated, that has a reasonable grounding on substance, and overlay that with our understanding of what that business earns to provide insights. So that's one part. So how do you remove the interference of having to get data and extrapolate and re-extrapolate data between formal income and informal incomes to other means of data analytics? The second part of our entire analytics is around establishing or predicting a person's behavior. And that predictability of person's behavior comes through your experience of how a person either looks for a new product, how a person looks to move to a new service provider, and what his needs would be. And there's a whole host of information that you are now able to obtain, right? As you get through partnerships with fintech companies and with other providers of service, you're increasingly able to use that data intelligently to predict propensity, to predict a person's wanting to use that. And a lot of our work around analytics is around simplifying identity and the credentials establishment, Aadhaar, and if a fellow is using his mobile, geo-tagging to establish whether or not he or she is applying from his or her place of residence or work, so you don't have to revalidate that. Use second-order data to validate income. Use behavior patterns to predict need and be able to offer a solution financially for a need that he may have. And you've got a variety of data. A person visiting a shopping mall, he's in, or a Chroma is probably looking to buy something. A person, and you have enough analytical data that you're able to now start predicting. So it's a multi-pronged approach around triangulating around using data, third-party data to establish income and means of payment, bureau overlay, your own understanding of margins and profitability, and predictive power.
Okay, nice, fascinating actually. So while we've been talking, Pigeon's been working, so we've got a number of questions. Interestingly, 2 questions out here and the polling question that we had are all around the same theme, which is of risks in digitization. What are the downsides? What are, especially there's a particular question on cyber security, on hacking, on the risks associated with digitization. So before I come back to my panelists and ask them for their views on that, let's also look at the polling question, which again had exactly the same thought behind it. So if you could just put up the polling question. Yeah. So, oh, wow. Especially to be vulnerable, but people are saying, well, that's fine. We just go ahead and absolutely. I mean, that is, what's your view? I'm opening this to the panel.
Yeah,
No,
Sanjay. Sorry. Sanjay, if I'm being honest, if there is something that I feel worried while going to bed, while 1 out of 4 is a great statement to make, but you genuinely feel a bit worried when you see hacking happening right, left, and center, and to a few of the best corporations in the world. Let me be honest. That's a worry that we carry. At the same time, our IT team and us, we are working very closely to address these risks. So, to answer you, the way information is flowing, everything that we do, right, 24/7, right, is exposed to the external world through various apps. Everything that you do on Facebook or Twitter or anything, your behavior is known. People can actually tell you a lot more information about yourself than you know probably. So to answer your question, when you are growing at this kind of a speed, 20% CAGR for last 5 years, how many industries are growing? So this is where we are inviting attention as well, right? 21 lakh crore is a good number to talk about, but we are custodians of this money that is placed with us, and therefore I think we need to continuously look at this particular angle. And as part of leadership, this is one question I keep asking myself on a regular basis and take all the course correction that is possible.
Yeah. Sandeep, you wanted to make
No, I just want to make one common comment. I mean, when we talk of fraud, we sometimes just associate it with digitization. We normally assume that there was no fraud in the manual system. Right? The question is, has the risk gone up or gone down? And is the incremental rewards that we are getting worth it or not? I think that is essentially, there is no system which is 100% fraud proof. Let's be very clear. As institutions, we need to continuously work on increasing, cyber security. I think as individuals, we really continuously read. I mean, I ask very basic questions. Is your password on your Facebook and Google the same as the one that you use in office or for your bank account? If it is time, then you are open to huge risks. Right. So, I mean, and just something as basic.
That's true for a lot of us.
Yeah. So, I mean, have you looked at your Facebook settings?
Absolutely.
I mean, how much have you given access to? So, those are something which is basics, and there is a lot of education that we all need to be aware of. But as is in most of the time, I mean, when I go out of my house, do I lock my house? I need to lock my house. So, that's similar to stuff that you do. I think digitization has been a great tool, a great enabler. I believe that the risk of fraud has actually come down, though it's talked about in a lot more fashion because it's sort of exciting in that sense. For example, geotagging, which just got discussed. I mean, easy to check out a fraudster a lot more easily because we can have our own risk person visiting a customer's office, seeing where it was, click a photograph, and then send it back. Small things like that. I mean, now if you have got Aadhaar-based enabled, the chances of you deduping and the fraud risk have sort of has reduced significantly. What CIBIL did for the banking industry, I mean, things like that and equivalent happening in insurance industry where there's a fraud repository trying to be created where technology is going to be used. So I think we have to, if the risk there, I'm not taking that away. Do we need, as both companies and customers need to be a lot more aware than what we are? The answer is yes. But I think technology is also a great enabler, and where if used well, it can be a significant reduction of fraud. I mean, the KYC risk is significantly gone with Aadhaar now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just completely gone. And the cost of onboarding has probably come down by 1/4. If I
Yeah, that reminds me of, there was a recent article by Nandan Nilekani on it was an interview actually, where he was asked about the much asked question on Aadhaar and security around it. And he made a very pertinent point. He said your biggest security issue today is what's in your hand, your smartphone. It's got your messages, conversations, locations, GPS, you name it, it's got it. And he also added some more things in that, and with accelerometers and all kinds of things inside it, you can do a whole lot of things, including whether you are drunk holding the thing. It's quite amazing what we don't even realize. And Aadhaar comes right at the bottom of that long list of so-called hackable stuff.
Yeah, I keep saying Google knows where you sleep and who you sleep with. Very
Good one.
They know it.
Good way, guys.
Good one.
So anyway, so just to kind of round off, and talking about Aadhaar, how is Aadhaar kind of, BY, if you could quickly just talk about the Aadhaar piece, and then I have one last question before we round
Yeah,
up.
what happens in Aadhaar? Why we talk so highly about Aadhaar? 1.2 billion or 120 crore people have Aadhaar, and look at the process of getting into Aadhaar. Each one of us have physically gone there, given our fingerprints, iris, and so on and so forth. At the same time, look at the convenience it has created, that in fraction of second I can get this data, right, and use this data productively. More importantly for me with Aadhaar, quality of compliance has significantly improved because you actually know your customer. And how will it change the paradigm on servicing? You have a senior citizen, signature does not match, his redemption gets rejected. All that he needs to do is put his finger on Aadhaar, and we can validate him and process his redemption. With just one use case on service side, but I see Aadhaar being a game changer on servicing as well. At the same time, that quality of compliance, I guess Anand would be far more comfortable with, lending, right? And for us, KYC process has become really simpler, created enabling environment for digitization.
Absolutely. Aadhaar is pretty much game changing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So before we round off, the last question, last but not the least, people, right? The whole issue of how do you manage the entire people part of your organization in terms of when you're in your digitization journey? How much of a challenge is the thing around staffing, resourcing, skilling, training, changing the mindset of a generation of people who've been kind of stuck to a particular way of doing things? So if I may just ask, Kirti, if you can take that, and maybe if you will.
I'll say whenever you're doing I'll treat digitization as a change enhancement or a change management. When you're doing this kind of a thing, the most important link in the whole process is people. And it's extremely important for us in this particular that we keep on evolving. We keep on understanding that what is the current requirement. The ecosystem is asking me to learn what all and provide the right kind of an input to our people, right from the education system to a kind of a training programs, to kind of a reskilling our people, to make them feel comfortable. So let's take an example today. A 50 years old person a few years back would not be keen on handling a smartphone. Today, I think many of us would be out here whose parents who are into 60s and they are using a touch phone. It's simply kind of a thing that how if we can equip them where the whole psychology and the metrics comes up and says the more you age, it becomes very difficult for you to learn. If that person can learn, why can't a person who is a young professional in the organization can learn and adopt out there? The good thing would happen is rather than somebody forcing it out there, if we build a kind of a mindset at our own end and says, if I need to grow, I need to continuously keeps on evolving out there. And I would say this used to happen earlier also. It's not that this never used to happen earlier. The only thing is skill set was different.
Yeah.
And I will say this can happen.
Yeah. I'll give you a practical example. We can talk about pudding for half an hour, but proof of pudding is in eating it, right? So in our case, what happens? Entire organization's salary, entire organization, every single employee, right from CEO to the last person, gets created in liquid fund, part of that salary. So 100% employees use digital because they just have to click to move that liquid money into any of the schemes or their savings bank account. So proof of pudding is each of the employee experiencing it every month, and I get 1,000 feedbacks because 1,000 people use digital, right? And that's how adoption has happened, and everybody feels part of the journey, and it's a co-creation. That success we all enjoy together because they experience that convenience every month.
Yeah, I think there are various levels in which you talk about digitization. At the cold phase where people are selling, collecting, I think adoption is easier if they see a tangible, personal improvement in the way they operate. So how you, converting from paper receipts to a digital receipt, ability to, like you said, use a tab to source a particular account, make it simpler, don't have them coming back to head office or branch office, is the primary incentive for people to adopt. So at first, make the quick wins that makes adoption at the cold phase easier. The more difficult one is at the policy and at the culture. Now that is always very difficult. So you have to do two things. One is, of course, the sponsorship from the top, and we heard examples of sponsorship from the top. If that gets driven down, that itself starts creating a motivational effect or an effect of having to do some changes. But I'll tell you one thing, it's the inertia effect. At the end, once people shift, and that's what we saw, the resistance to analytics, data or information-driven process was always difficult when you kicked it off. But when that momentum came in from sponsorship from the top, soon people saw the benefit, getting away. So it's sponsorship from the top, be collaborative. I think the third thing is also, in a way, to be fault tolerant. The biggest problem to digitization is, and especially in many of the organizations, is if you trip, there is an accountability. So you've got to open up against accountability to create fault tolerance in people and encourage people to trip, so long as you can fail fast. So that's the third part that you have to do. So make it simpler, fault tolerance, and accountability from the top.
I'm afraid we've completely run out of time here. So we do find ourselves in the midst of a very exciting and challenging journey on digitization. I'm talking on behalf of the industry and the institutions, bankers like us. And the panelists over here represent an industry which is very much at the forefront of what we're doing. So I wish them all the best, and thank you, all of you. Really nice. It was a fascinating discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Sanjay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anand. Very nice thought.
For sharing their thoughts, and thanks to the audience for their involvement. I would request Sanjay to hand over a small token of appreciation to our eminent speakers, please. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We'll now hand over the stage for our next session Our next session here is on Flow Banker. So the Flow Banker is an offering from our transaction banking and financial markets group. And what we need to do is ensure a seamless process on end-to-end of our digital journey.
Talk from here on it. You're not going to use follow mic. No. We'll speak from here, right?
Hello. We'll start right over. Yeah, I would request the audience to settle in. We are also expecting other people. And we'll start up with a session on Flow Banker, which essentially is a culmination of the transaction flow with foreign exchange. Yeah. I don't know.
Hello. Yeah, let's go.
Trade and commerce is the blood that binds this world. Whether you're an importer or exporter, a manufacturer or a service provider, our commitment at SCB remains the same. Plan, partner with Standard Chartered to help achieve the most in supply chain finance. With digitization widely publicized as a key enabler, we at Standard Chartered have managed to leverage its true potential. Are you a corporate with a large focus on India and having a global FX hedging strategy? Do you find it hard to keep track of regulatory requirements on your underlying documents? Are you maintaining a large back office team to support these processes, which through digital still need manual intervention? Do you find the post-trade processing time consuming and paper intensive? Do you find it tough to track your payables, payments and FX hedges? We at Standard Chartered understand the problems that clients like yourself are facing in markets like India, wherein documentation needs are large. Our focus is on digital banking and providing an end-to-end workflow from our platforms. We provide features of supports ERP and treasury integration, provides real-time FX rates and FX order execution, facilitates post-trade deal confirmation, supports document upload and document verification, signs using digital signature, manages hedge events like rollover, rollback and cancellations, acts as a central repository of information for deals done across channels, links FX hedges and trade documents, drive processes using dashboards and tools for post-FX trade process, as well as transaction banking-driven documentation process. Track using clear analytics and visualizations and track FX deals and documents. Integrated alerts and notifications engine to stay updated on the various tasks. Provides heat maps for regulatory compliance. Provides disposal instructions. Provides access to Standard Chartered's global research portal. In India, with the government support on digitization and online digital signature capability to sign on the go, we can even help you sign using your Aadhaar. At Standard Chartered, we are a bank who stands by the people in the many places we call home. We believe we must deliver quality products and services that meet our clients' needs and help them through the challenges of doing business. We are here for the people, here for the long run, here for good.
Hello. Hi, welcome back. With the introduction through the video, I will give you some small introduction about our people sitting here. I'll start with Thomas. Thomas McConnell is the head digital platforms technology at Standard Chartered Bank. He currently heads the platform for CIB channels at Standard Chartered Bank. He has 24 years of experience within the banking industry with a variety of roles, delivering technology solutions to core market functions from finance, trading, risk management, and digital channels. He is currently based out of Singapore. With him is Vikram Narayan. He's a lead business analyst based out of Singapore, and he's the part of the founding team driving the human center of channel solutions at SCB. He has over 15 years of experience in FX and capital markets in Asian and Southeast Asian markets. With him is Sunil Manmohan. He has an experience of more than 15 years across Standard Chartered and Citibank in the domain of financial market sales. He is currently the Executive Director, Standard Chartered Bank Financial Market Sales. And I would hand over the stage to Sunil to take it over.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody, and thank you very much for your time. It has been a great pleasure to basically be over here with you and give you an overview of Flow Banker. As we know, India is evolving, and in order to move up the value chain, there has been a lot of focus on digitization by creating new digital platforms that will speed up the processes, digital platform that will provide you an easy access to both data analytics and statistics, and digital platforms that will essentially plug in the products with the services that we offer. And all these initiatives are being taken in order to improve both efficiency and productivity by having some sort of digital transformation. So one such initiative from our side, we at Standard Chartered, we have come out with a new product, and that's FlowBanker. So just a quick introduction to FlowBanker. FlowBanker essentially is a portal which integrates both foreign exchange and transaction banking platforms of the bank. And this integration is mainly driven by some sort of common feedback that we received from many of our corporate clients, where these clients do believe that banks have real good products. However, the solutions that they offer many a times are a bit fragmented. And this is for the simple reason that many a times it happens that the own in-house systems of the bank, they do not interact with each other. And hence, there is a need on their part to either navigate or flip across various channels to use our services. So just to give you an example, like if you want to do FX, then you need to have an access to FX portal. Similarly, if you want to do trade, then you need to have an access to transaction banking portal of the bank. Similarly, if you want to have access to research reports, then you need to have your separate research ID and login ID and password. So, and we all know that markets in India are highly regulated, where there is a very high level of document submission, verification, and certification. So all these activities are pretty manual and cumbersome. And many times we get this feedback from our client that most of the time, or productive time, I would say, goes in doing, exchanging emails or doing routine follow-ups with the bank. So what if features of both transaction banking as well as foreign exchange are embedded in just one portal? So now that's your FlowBanker. So FlowBanker essentially is going to be a one-stop shop for everything, be it FX hedging, be it trade settlement. It will facilitate you with data analytics, data management, hedge management. It will allow you to upload documents, verify documents. It will also support digital signatures. It will give you access to Standard Chartered Global Research. And to me, the most important feature of FlowBanker is going to be its ability to basically link FX hedges with both proof of underlying documents that you provide at the time of hedging and settlement documents that you provide at the time of payments. And all these things are being done in order to have better client experience. So in a nutshell, besides the basic integration of both FX and transaction banking platform, FlowBanker essentially is going to come out with a lot of new features and capabilities that will help you to ensure compliance with regulations. And as I said earlier, it will help you to improve your efficiency and productivity, since most of the manual tasks that you perform currently are going to get automated. So before we get into understanding the features of FlowBanker, let us share with you a video which basically talks about what the product is. And from there, my colleague Vikram Narayan will take over.
Trade and commerce is the blood that binds this world. Whether you're an importer or exporter, a manufacturer or a service provider, our commitment at SCB remains the same. Plan, partner with Standard Chartered to help achieve the most in supply chain finance. With digitization widely publicized as a key enabler, we at Standard Chartered have managed to leverage its true potential. Are you a corporate with a large focus on India and having a global FX hedging strategy? Do you find it hard to keep track of regulatory requirements on your underlying documents? Are you maintaining a large back office team to support these processes, which through digital still need manual intervention? Do you find the post-trade processing time consuming and paper intensive? Do you find it tough to track your payables, payments and FX hedges? We at Standard Chartered understand the problems that clients like yourself are facing in markets like India, wherein documentation needs are large. Our focus is on digital banking and providing an end-to-end workflow from our platforms. We provide features of supports ERP and treasury integration, provides real-time FX rates and FX order execution, facilitates post-trade deal confirmation, supports document upload and document verification, signs using digital signature, manages hedge events like rollover, rollback and cancellations, acts as a central repository of information for deals done across channels, links FX hedges and trade documents, drive processes using dashboards and tools for post-FX trade process, as well as transaction banking-driven documentation process. Track using clear analytics and visualizations and track FX deals and documents. Integrated alerts and notifications engine to stay updated on the various tasks. Provides heat maps for regulatory compliance. Provides disposal instructions. Provides access to Standard Chartered's global research portal. In India, with the government support on digitization and online digital signature capability to sign on the go, we can even help you sign using your Aadhaar. At Standard Chartered, we are a bank who stands by the people in the many places we call home. We believe we must deliver quality products and services that meet our clients' needs and help them through the challenges of doing business. We are here for the people, here for the long run, here for good.
Can we move on to the... Okay, so thanks, Sunil. Hi, everyone. I will not take too much of your time. So let's get going with the Flow Banker of choice. So what is Flow Banker? So we began as part of a client feedback here in India, and the common feedback was around trying to bring in one integrated portal for all you users on the bank portal. Now, what we have there is a single portal. You currently have an S2B trade platform where you currently come in and drop your documents. And on the FX side, you have something called the S2B exchange, which you use to book your forwards or your FX deals. What we've understood from our feedback with various clients is that if you're able to bring this on a single platform, if you're able to bring all this on a unified portal, it just gives you an end-to-end view of three key things that you want to look at. Namely, your hedges or your forwards, second, your documents, and third, your payments. These three are the pillars on which most of your transactions are based, and that is what we hope to address through the solution. Now, as part of this, some things that we've kept in mind are ensuring that there's just one view, one bank, one view. Through that process, what we're trying to do is bring in further automations. In the sense, if you want to go ahead and have a complete view on all your documents, you will be able to view it. It does not depend on whether you're going to go ahead and give it to a different team or it's all within the team. It's all within the bank. It's all one team. So that's one approach. The second thing that goes in there is the integrated document view. Now, documentation traditionally in India has been extremely paper intensive. That's a common point that we've seen across all the sessions today. So how are we trying to get that? How do you cross that problem? Problem is that if you're able to convert it to a digital solution, if you can make it more digital, I'm sure we'll be able to take it forward. The other things that came in is even if we go digital, there's somebody who has to sit to upload these bulk set of documents. So what we're trying to look at is more sophisticated solutions where clients can directly connect in with the bank. And that's one thing what you call as a host-to-host connection, wherein two systems just talk to each other and send this information, whether it's orders, whether it's your trades, whether it's your documents. We send it through a seamless system talk, as we call it.
So that ensures that all these documents come in without a human intervention. The third part is the focus on digitization. This whole session is around digitization. Now, as part of that, what we're doing is that we're talking about digital signatures. As you saw in the video, the current processes of trying to send out paper documents, you sign, you send that back, we're moving all that away. We bring it up on a portal, you use your digital signatures that you have. I'm sure most of you already have that. Using that, you will be able to sign these documents on the go. In fact, by integrating with Aadhaar, you can even get an OTP on your mobile and sign off your mobiles. The final point is this focus on risk and reporting. Now, this is something that we've got, again, from client feedback, wherein we have to send out multiple reports, that information is not available and all that. So this, again, comes back to the point of having a unified portal where you get all the reports that you need across teams, across groups, and you're able to get an integrated view of your FX, your documents, and your payments. So I'll move on. So I'm going to start looking at some of the processes that you guys do on a day-to-day basis and how Flow Banker will be able to address this in markets like India. Now, on the top row there, you see that you're talking of the current processes. And in the bottom row, you have something which is your improved workflows. Now, what do you do currently when you start your FX hedge bookings? You call up, currently you call the dealers, or you do it over voice, or you do it over email. If we give you this portal, which is Flow Banker, we give it to you, you're able to log into the portal. You are able to see the streaming rates, as in what rates our dealers see, you are able to see the same rates right there. You are able to see those rates, you find the rates favorable, you go ahead, execute the deals, you would get your notifications back. Considering another scenario, let's say you still want to go the old school, where you want to still continue with voice. There are so many activities that have to be done as part of the post-trade platforms. So what we do is we get all the various sources. For example, you do the deal on voice, you do the deal on S2BX, you do the deal on Bloomberg, do it on any channel. We ensure that we pick that data across all these channels through which you book the deals and consolidate it on the platform of Flow Banker so that any post-trade activity that you may need to do, for example, signing confirmations, managing your utilizations, any of those kind of activities, you can do those activities off Flow Banker. So that's an important point that we're trying to ensure and maintain in this. The third point that you see here is the concept of proof of underlying. Now, all of us here in the room understand that that's a very important point for most corporates. We try and ensure that the proof of underlying is given because you want to ensure that the documentation is correct and for the strong compliance that we have in this country. So these documents currently go down physically to the branches and then get verified and then get processed. What can you do as an alternate to that is an online, quick self-service tool. All you need to do is upload those documents, and using your digital signature again, you sign those documents. So in effect, you're mimicking this process of a certified true copy. So once you mimic that process, you are actually doing the same thing as sending the papers down to us. Once that is done, you can go ahead and book your deals and link it to the documents. Now, this can be done at any stage. You can do it, give me the documents up front, book your trades later. You can give me the trades and documents at the same time. Or as per the RBI rules, you could give me those documents 14 days later. We support all of it. Yeah. Further, what else could you do using this? The next thing that we do is on the confirmations. Currently, most of you use the paper confirmation formats wherein you currently receive these documents from us, physically sign it, and send it back. The idea and the focus, again, has always been on digitization. And using your digital signatures, you could sign off these documents on a portal. Now, a key question that comes up here is the entitlements. Suppose a person who's not authorized to sign it, if they would sign it. That is also taken care of through this portal because we only show you the documents or the confirmations which you are authorized to sign. So if you have deals which are 2 million and your authorization limit is just 1 million, you won't even see it on your portal, so you cannot sign. So we take care of all that to ensure that the right person signs the right deals. Next, the process of trade events in terms of rollovers, cancellations, utilizations. Our feedback is that it's a lot of process because there's invariably a lot of references that need to go, the multiple calls that go out between the trade team, the financial market teams, and all that. So what we try and do is ensuring that we bring all this onto a single portal. So all you do is you see your entire set of hedges. For those hedges, you go ahead and take a position in terms of rollover. If it's rollover, you just mention the date, and we do an internal check in terms of documentations. If it's cancellations, we directly tell you the price at which we will be canceling it. So that ensures that this information that we internally had processing, we're moving it right up front to you, so you see it right up there. Okay? That's Flow Banker for you. The most important feature that really brings this together is the FX linkage. Now, most of the clients have said that it's invariably you have an FX booking that you do the financial markets, then you have your documents which are sitting in the trade world, and then we have to make sure that we get able to get it together. This portal brings all that together. You're able to see your documents, you're able to see your trades, you're able to see those two in one single screen and link it. So when you're able to do that in one single screen, you're able to really relate and say, this is my document, which is my liquidity cycle. So for example, I may have a payment which is due on 30th of September. I may also have a forward which is maturing on 30th of September. I can see both of them and match them out and execute them. So this just helps you manage your liquidity at the right time. The last thing was the whole concept of deal trees. Now, many times, most corporates have a really long hedging strategy. You get into mostly 12 months long strategies. When you get into these kind of strategies and you do further utilizations or partial cancellations and things like that, the references go on changing, and then you have, it becomes difficult to track those. So the idea is that we give you a quick visualization which tells you in the form of a tree what your entire life cycle has been. So right from the deal origination till the deal maturity, you have that information with you. So you're able to see just one deal and all associated documents or payments with that. So I'll take a quick poll here. And so we can see we've raised something, and you can see that on your pigeonhole as well. So some of the questions that we've been asking some of our clients when we went about these feedback sessions were, what are the key value adds that you see using an FX hedging? And it'll really help if you can give us your feedback as well using the Pigeonhole app. I'll just move on in the interest of time. The other questions that we've asked, and you'll see that again there, is around will integration of FX and transaction banking platforms make a positive impact? Because that was feedback that we had got across a few clients. I'm sure there's some feedback, but it'll really help if you give us your views on this. The next thing is the focus on digitization, where the digital signatures, which comes from the earlier session of using your digital signatures, which are Aadhaar enabled, will that help you streamline your processes? Will it make it more efficient? And the final one, which is around how do you ensure a better treasury management? What would drive that? Is it digitized workflows? Is it integration with your systems, which could be an ERP system or treasury system? If we integrate with that, will that make more sense? Will data management by way of access to reports, will that help you? Or any more data analytics? So this just helps us understand about how we could make these products and features better for you. I'll just get going, and we'll come back in terms of the poll results in some time. So broadly, as a client, you come in, and this is your typical life cycle. You start off with booking a hedge, the beginning of the financial year, 1st January. You start off with booking a hedge, then the process gets confirmed, then we send out a confirmation, you sign and send that back. That process happens more in the financial market space. Now, we'll see that whole process, how you would be able to do it off a portal. This is the screens that we have and our product, the Flow Banker tool. This is being built off the S2B next-gen framework, so which is the next-gen solutions that we're offering to our clients. Now, in this, we are able to offer things of cash, term, spot, and forwards. You could book all of these right up front, as you can see there. You have flexibility to book across companies because you may have sister concerns, and you could book across them. You also have options to go ahead and define your hedge currency and counter currencies. Budget rates, in case you guys have any rate that you want to hit and aim at, we have tools to capture that. We support things like underlying basis, which is some of you do past performance, some of you do things like contracted exposures or proof of underlying where you give the physical invoice. We support both. So you just have to choose the options there, and then based on that, it goes on. So as I was mentioning, we can support all cross-currency deals, and we can capture this information for better tracking. Once done, we also support features of multi-line hedging, because our feedback again is that many of you tend to do this over a single day. On a single day, you come in, you book like 10 deals, 20 deals. You want to do it one shot, we support that. The option to upload the documents, as I was saying, you can put your proof of underlying documents either before or during or after. You can do all of that. Now, once that's done, the person would come in and approve these hedges. So how do you go ahead and approve them? Now, that's the rate that you see, the bid and offer rates. These are exactly the rates that you would see if you were on our S2BX or exchange platforms. These are the same pricing tier that you are on. This is exactly the same price that you would get here. And you can go ahead and execute the deal, or if you feel that there's been any error in capture of this information, you could edit it. We also support voice at this point, because if you feel that you would get a better rate by negotiating with our dealers, please go ahead and call our dealers. They will give you a deal number which you can enter and close the deal here. You can also see supporting documents if you want to for proof of underlying. Now, once this is done, we go ahead and do the confirmations. Till here, these activities would have been done by your dealers. Now comes in the typical role of a back office at your end, where they would come in and confirm the deals. Now, this is a paper process right now. The whole process could be made digital and brought on using this portal where we have a dashboard and clients can view it. So we support both single and multiple selection of trades, and you can go ahead and bulk select and execute these deals. If you want to just do affirmations, which you currently do on phone, you could do it off this portal. So no more phone calls. This is your final activity after the confirmations are done on a day-to-day basis. So you would have booked your deal in January, your deals are ready, then you go in and maybe in April, you go in and execute these deals. How do you do it? You come in here, you go in to manage your hedges. As you can see on the screen, you have options to manage documents as well as your settlement documents. We can go ahead and have other events possible there in terms of rollovers, utilizations, or cancellations. The mark-off option is more for a proof of underlying situation where clients come in, like you, come in and give us this information after the deal is booked. You have the 14-day period. If you want to come in and give that document at that stage, that's when you come in and give that. This is the point which we spoke about in terms of the FX linkage. Now, FX linkage is very important and key or core to the whole FlowBanker solution. We're talking of bringing you your trade documents here that you see, and you're able to link it to an FX deal that you would have done. So you can see your documents here. Based on what documents you choose to link it, and you can go ahead and link it. And once you link it, this is how the information will come down. Now, you can choose, you see there, we have $1 million payout that you have in terms of a trade transaction, and you want to go ahead and choose how you want to pay it. You could choose cash, you could choose to pay it using your foreign currency account or your EFC account, or if you have any pre-booked deals, which you already have, for example, a forward, for example, a cash deal that your dealer would have taken in the morning, you could take any of those and split it in the ratio that you want to do it. You could do it in that ratio, and once that's done, your deal is executed. The other key point is we also support a concept of blocked, where we are able to book these deals in front. This is the deal tree information that I told you about, where you're giving you a complete view and visualization of the deal. And finally, a dashboard for you to streamline your workflows and processes. You have options to upload the documents from here. You have a quick nav option to be able to go and you do any form of user actions. And finally, a feed from our research portals. So to help recap on this, I'll call on stage Tom to give you a brief recap on this.
Thank you, Vikram. Just to recap on what is FlowBanker. FlowBanker is a single one bank, one view platform. It has an integrated workflow solution. It brings together an end-to-end digitized set of solutions from integration with ERP or treasury systems all the way through to digital signatory. And it also comes with a comprehensive suite of reporting, analytics, and tools to make life more efficient, more effective for yourselves. With FlowBanker, we at Standard Chartered aim to help you plan your hedging strategy. So please come partner with us and enjoy a digitalized end-to-end solution with FlowBanker.
Or we can get back to them.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get back to them. Yeah. Okay.
So just to say, if you'd like to know more about the product or get more involved in our feedback sessions, contact your sales representative and they'll arrange.
Thanks, Thomas. So thanks, FlowBanker team, to take us through this offering. Now I announce the closure of this panel discussion. Please join us out for cocktails and dinner. Whilst you grab hold of your drinks, we await Mr. Atul Khatri, the stand-up comedian, which is very successful in India. He's joining us in 15 minutes, and we'll enjoy his session. Just to tell you, a couple of minutes about him, he's the only Indian who has performed in the Hong Kong Comedy Festival, and he's recognized by CNN, IBN as well for his stand-up comedy. So we do look forward to some jokes from him, and we join back here in 10 to 15 minutes. Thank you very much for your listening. Thank you. Thank you.
ERP and treasury integration, provides real-time FX relations, acts as a central repository of information for deals done across channels, links FX hedges